So this was an interesting bit of news, and Fandom Wire is covering this. Adrien Brody eyes Dune 3 after beating Timothée Chalamet at the Oscars, and I know who he should play after Peaky Blinders. After winning the Oscars Best Actor award, Adrien Brody now wants to join Denis Villeneuve's Dune 3 movie, and we can't wait to see him play the villain. I've never seen Peaky Blinders, so let me know if any in the chat has seen it. Adrien Brody proved once again that his acting prowess remains at its peak, especially after winning his second Oscar for Best Actor after his epic performance in The Brutalist. He managed to beat a complete unknown's Timothée Chalamet, who had the loudest Oscar buzz last year. But we all know he should have been nominated for Dune Part 2. Now Brody has expressed interest in working with Denis Villeneuve for the upcoming Dune 3 movie, a project in which Chalamet is involved. There's no reason not to cast the actor, as he revealed that he does not actively avoid studio movies. After winning the Best Actor award at the Oscars, Adrien Brody is certainly being chased by producers and filmmakers now in hopes of collaborating with him, but there's one director that he specifically wants to work with. While speaking via Team Deacon's podcast, the actor prefaced by saying he loves independent movies, though he does not completely shun blockbuster films. So the actor is quoted saying, "It's not that I have made a conscious decision not to do studio movies. I'd love to get a call from Denis Villeneuve and say, 'Come do a wonderful role in Dune,' and I'd be there." From that statement, we already know that he's eyeing the upcoming Dune Messiah movie, and there's a role that perfectly suits Brody. Scytale, the Tleilaxu face dancer. We're giving Brody a main villain role in the franchise because he's already proved his range when it comes to being the bad guy. Oh yeah, he could be a bad guy, for sure. He's a great actor. Remember the mobster Luca Changretta from Peaky Blinders? Brody brought so much sincerity to this character and even evoked the sympathy of the viewers because of his own reason for wanting to destroy the Shelby clan. He's playing the game as an act of vendetta for the death of his father, but he's painted as a villain across the show simply because we're watching from Tommy's point of view. Similarly, Scytale from Dune is one of the coldest and most ruthless fictional adversaries. His ability to transform himself into another person is not only skin deep, he understands their mind and motives, so he can blend in seamlessly. He's also described as someone who sympathizes with his victims, but proceeds with his plans anyways. Brody's experience playing Changretta is already a testament that he would make a great Scytale, and hopefully we meet this villain in the upcoming Dune film. So yeah, we've already been trying to see who could be cast for this role, as this article kind of pointed out already. Face dancers not only take on the appearance, they transform down to even the cellular level. It can mimic so well another person, and not only just physically, but also psychologically. They can mimic their mind. So because they can get into the mind of someone, that's why they're so valuable. They are masters of infiltration, espionage. It just takes the disguise to a whole new level. Their gifts are very valuable. To have someone who's a master at infiltration, that is something very powerful and very sinister about the Bane Tleilaxu face dancers. So it's a very unique, challenging role, I would say. And Scytale assumes the roles of numerous people in very different roles in society of where they are. So when thinking about who's going to be cast for such a role, it's very interesting in how you would even adapt it. If Adrien Brody plays Scytale, he won't be in it very much. So maybe just a cameo. There's actually going to have to be several actors playing double duty because they're going to have to play their original selves as well as Scytale playing them. So there is that initial meeting. At the very beginning of Dune Messiah, we have the rogues gallery of the most powerful people coming together to try to take down Paul Atreides. So we have the Reverend Mother, Gaius Helen Mohiam, Princess Irulan, Edric, the Spacing Guild Navigator, and Scytale, the face dancer at the Bane Tleilaxu. And he's actually a really important character. He's possibly the most important to the plot to take down Paul Atreides. He carries the most weight in carrying out this conspiracy and making sure it unfolds. He's doing a lot for this to work out and has a lot to do as far as the different roles he's assuming. So it's definitely going to be a very complex and challenging role to convey to the audience when necessary what's going on, who is he really, and only when it's necessary do we need to know. But yeah, for Adrien Brody, he can possibly assume the guise of himself at the very beginning I think he's described initially in that first meeting as a bland, round face appearance, jolly features, and vapid, full lips, the body of a bloated dumpling. He had actually questioned whether or not this appearance was the best one for this meeting because he felt like they just weren't treating him with the seriousness that he wanted. But that's what he initially wanted. He wanted to be unassuming and bland. But yeah, he did question whether or not that was the best appearance for that particular meeting. Definitely doesn't sound like Adrien Brody, that round face and the body of a bloated dumpling. In the adaptations of Dune already, for Villeneuve's interpretation, there has definitely been some creative liberties taken. I think Gurney Halleck is definitely one. I think he's described as an ugly lump of a man. And clearly, Josh Brolin doesn't fit that description. But in other characteristics, he does fit. And it is nice that they have the ink-vine scar. And he's definitely not ugly, but he portrays the gruffness of the character. And I would say that Patrick Stewart, he wasn't an ugly lump of a man either. So I don't think any of them were in any of the adaptations. But more important was the characteristics and traits of the character. And I think in all adaptations, they did well for that. They prosthetically fattened up Stellan Skarsgård for the Baron role. They could use similar effects in CGI to change Adrien Brody. I think it depends on what's most important. I think for the Baron, his appearance is so intrinsically linked to his personality that I feel like you could not have portrayed him in any other way. So yeah, they definitely have the ability to use prosthetics and makeup and CG to change it. But there's also the consideration whether or not that's what they're going to choose for Scytale. Because at the end of the day, what's most important is to really understand his mind and to know that he is a very sinister villain who's playing like 4D chess, plans within plans to a whole new level for this character. They can have that ability to be faithful, but also have to consider whether, if doing so, will portray the character's personality traits the best. I did wonder a lot with Austin Butler's Feyd-Rautha. I mean, initially, whether it was a good idea for him to be bald. I know it was like such a small thing, but for Villeneuve's interpretation, it flowed well. It didn't make sense. He's still a handsome man, but to also choose to have the Harkonnens be bald, that was definitely something that contributed to the harshness of their world. So there were things that made sense as far as portraying the important aspects of these characters. And in this case, with the world kind of completely messed up, they lived in this toxic soup. So that could have been a way to portray that physically of the Harkonnens. So I thought that was kind of interesting, a visual difference or creative liberty. So there has been that precedent with certain creative liberties taken with some of the characters. So yeah, I can see why it probably won't be exactly accurate across the board when it comes to Scytale's different changes. And even in this initial meeting, I'd say as long as you can convey the sinisterness of his character, I think that's the most important part. And especially initially introducing him, seeing his menace and almost something that's beneath the surface, that's lingering, that's hiding underneath that appearance that he chose, seeing his mind at work with the deadly conspiracy. And something interesting too that this article brought out was the sympathy that the Bene Tleilaxu at large kind of view towards their victims, that they feel like they can relate more to their victims in a way, and that each potential victim always has to have a means of escape. Very nuanced. It's going to be very challenging for any actor that takes on this role, but also the various other actors that will not only have to portray their original selves, but then Scytale mimicking them as well. And if we're going to be clued in on who it is, I think it'd be interesting if it does show Scytale becoming Duncan Idaho. Scytale has a very important meeting with one of the Fremens, former Bashar of the Jihad Legions, and he chooses the appearance of Duncan Idaho. So I have been wondering whether or not they will portray that. I think that would be an interesting way to do that. Just have Brody come in from that first scene and then at the very end. He can change his appearance at will. It's just whether or not it's conducive to do so at any given moment. So when the game's up and it's fine for him to reveal himself, he can change his appearance back to the Adrien Brody appearance, and then we would all know for sure that that's him. I am excited though to see the face dancer change. I'm excited to see how Villeneuve interprets that. So they're called face dancers because of the way that the flesh seems to dance. and change. So I'm excited to see his visual interpretation of that. Hopefully we get to see it. We did see it in Dune Prophecy, and I wasn't a huge fan of that, but it was an early proto version of the face dancer. So that's what their explanation was for that. It still could be different. It's like 10,000 years later. So the article concludes saying, we have not yet met Scytale in Denis Villeneuve's franchise, but there is a high possibility that we'll see him very soon as he is a crucial part of Dune Messiah. There's going to be so much that they're going to have to streamline. So I can see a lot of these little interactions maybe having to be streamlined when it comes to Scytale. But he's doing so much for the conspiracy. So it's definitely going to have to be that delicate balance of, are we following him? Are we just mainly following Paul Atreides? And we're seeing the outworking of Scytale's interference. Out of all the characters, I honestly don't see how you can omit Scytale. This was my worry before because of the omission of the Guild in Dune Part 2. That just seemed such a major thing to omit. And same thing with Stephen McKinley Henderson's Thufir Hawat. He was omitted, and the reasoning for that was because this was a Bene Gesserit-focused adaptation. But for Dune Messiah, I don't see any other way around it. These other factions are coming out of the shadows and having a direct part in laying the trap for Paul Atreides. I don't see how there's any way that you can change the story if you were to put it all on the Bene Gesserit. To say that he has a crucial part of the narrative is definitely putting it lightly. He is the main figurehead of it. And it is the machinations and the creations of the Bene Tleilaxu that play the most significant part in the trap for Paul Atreides, with the creation of the Duncan Idaho Gola, Hate, and the prescient dwarf Bijaz. These were all creations of the Bene Tleilaxu. So there's some huge mental gymnastics you'd have to take to even reduce their part of the story. We must see him, in other words. We must. So far, details about the upcoming project remain scarce, although production is reportedly set to begin in summer 2025. Villeneuve confirmed that Messiah will be his final Dune project, but he isn't calling it a trilogy, as other filmmakers are free to pick up the franchise. Yes, he said that he is keeping in line with the book's narrative in that sense, that he's not ending it there, and if another filmmaker decides to continue with Children of Dune after that, which is the true Dune trilogy. Also, who else could we see for Scytale? Hopefully we'll see news about that since they're shooting soon. I would say that they're definitely casting now. I mean, they have their main characters already set, obviously. So hopefully we'll hear soon about these other characters that are now introduced in Dune Messiah and any rumored castings there. Even if we don't know who they're playing, we may hear of actors being signed on. So yeah, we'll see. But I'm curious to know what you think about Adrien Brody's interest in joining Denis Villeneuve's next Dune film. Do you think Scytale would be a good casting choice for Brody, or is there another character you think would also be a good fit? And considering Villeneuve's minimalist and streamlined approach for non-Bene Gesserit factions, are you concerned that Scytale could possibly be omitted from the Messiah adaptation? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe for more Dune and other sci-fi and fantasy news, theories, and lore. And if you're looking for other ways to support the channel, you can leave a super thanks or join as a YouTube member for early access to new videos and other perks. You can also check out my Patreon page for exclusive content. Thank you all so much for your support, and as always, have a very nerdy day.